We often assume the smartest person in the room is the one using the biggest words. However, true intelligence often looks much simpler than we imagine. 1. You have a habit of overcomplicating the simple things. Many people believe that complex speech equals deep intelligence. Psychology suggests that true brilliance is actually making the difficult look effortless. Cognitive psychology calls this phenomenon complexity bias. This is our natural tendency to favor complicated solutions over simple ones. This bias makes us believe that easy ideas must be shallow or unimportant. In reality, truly intelligent people have the clarity to strip away the noise. They can take a messy concept and break it into a few manageable steps. If you constantly add layers of jargon, you might be using complexity as a mask. Think about a time you explained a basic software tool to a new coworker. Instead of showing them the 3 basic buttons, you lectured them on technical architecture. At that moment, you likely felt like a high-level expert. In reality, your colleague probably just felt overwhelmed and confused. This behavior doesn't actually build your authority in the eyes of others. It often makes you look unpracticed or insecure about your own knowledge. You end up slowing down the team just to feel a sense of importance. You make simple tasks sound impossible just to impress people. Real mastery is about being understood by everyone you speak to. It's not about leaving your audience feeling lost or inferior. When you lack a deep grasp of a subject, you use complexity to hide. This is the first habit that suggests your intelligence might be a performance. You likely recognize that sudden, cold spike of social panic in a group. It happens when the conversation shifts to a topic you don't understand. Suddenly, you feel a desperate need to appear informed. 2. The intense fear of simply admitting you do not know something. Many people mistakenly believe that intelligence requires having an immediate answer. They think pausing to say, "I don't know," is a sign of weakness. In reality, research suggests that true mental depth is rooted in intellectual humility. Cognitive psychology defines this as recognizing the specific boundaries of your knowledge. Smart people are often the first to admit when they are out of their depth. When you lack this trait, you treat your ignorance like a shameful secret. Imagine you are sitting in a complex debate about global politics. On the surface you look engaged, but your mind is racing to keep up. You are terrified of being exposed as the only one who is lost. Or consider a friend giving a detailed critique of a movie you haven't seen. Instead of being honest, you find yourself nodding and agreeing with their points. You mimic their opinions just to avoid the momentary awkwardness. This social performance creates a false image of expertise. It is a defensive reaction to deep-seated feelings of intellectual insecurity. This habit signals that you value looking smart more than actually being smart. By pretending to understand, you effectively block yourself from ever learning. You shut the door on a potential moment of genuine curiosity. Over time, this defensive behavior silently erodes the trust others have in you. Colleagues eventually notice when your contributions consistently lack any real substance. They realize you are just winging it instead of speaking from true experience. Ask yourself honestly when you last felt pressured to fake an insight. Did that moment help you grow as a person? Or did it leave you feeling like an absolute fraud? Admitting what you don't know is the first step toward mastering any subject. True wisdom starts when you stop trying to protect your ego. It is the difference between performing intelligence and actually possessing it. Believing you have found a simple truth often comes at a high psychological price. 3. Thinking in extremes. High-level intelligence requires the ability to see many subtle shades of gray. It takes real mental stamina to hold 2 conflicting ideas in your mind at once. Truly smart people do not feel a desperate need to pick a side immediately. They are comfortable leaving a question open until they have enough information. Psychology refers to this limiting tendency as binary thinking. It is the urge to simplify complex issues into just 2 options. This happens when your brain wants to save energy by using simple categories. Your mind labels every situation as either purely right or purely wrong. A binary approach feels very safe and certain in an unpredictable world. However, leaning on these shortcuts is often a hidden sign of mental laziness. Intelligent minds understand that the most important truths usually sit in the middle. Choosing the extreme suggests your brain is overwhelmed by real complexity. Think about your reaction when you listen to a speaker you generally dislike. You might dismiss their entire philosophy because of one single disagreement. Or you might label a brilliant person as entirely bad over one mistake. This all-or-nothing mindset acts like a heavy filter on your perception. It blocks out any nuanced information that might challenge your existing beliefs. It is always much easier to burn a bridge than to build understanding. This behavior creates a rigid worldview that eventually breaks under pressure. You become completely unprepared for the messy problems of the real world. Real life is almost never as simple as black and white. This rigidity narrows your ability to grow or change your mind. You end up trapped in a shallow bubble of your own making. Reflect on the last time you felt absolute certainty about a complex topic. Did you actually master the nuances of that subject, or were you just avoiding the hard work and discomfort of doubt? Real intelligence is found in the messy space of it depends. Speed is often mistaken for brilliance in our fast-paced world. 4. Rushing to the first answer that pops into your head. We often believe that high processing speed equals intellectual depth. However, psychology shows that smart people actually think about their thinking. Cognitive psychology calls this behavior cognitive reflection. It is the ability to resist your very first mental impulse. This involves a deliberate pause to evaluate your initial reaction. You must check if your answer is based on logic or a bias. Without this pause, you are simply relying on raw gut instinct. Real intelligence requires the mental effort to go beyond the obvious. Imagine you are sitting in an important meeting with your team. A colleague presents a very technical and confusing problem. You immediately shout out a solution that feels right at the moment. You want to appear capable, but you soon realize you missed a variable. Now you have to walk back your confident statement in front of everyone. This habit of shooting from the hip creates a dangerous pattern. Others will eventually view you as someone who is unreliable. They learn that your speed is a poor substitute for accuracy. Soon, they stop asking for your input on anything important. Have you ever felt a wave of regret right after speaking too soon? It suggests your ego is prioritizing performance over the actual truth. True intelligence is the quiet patience to sit with a hard problem. You must wait until the full picture emerges before you speak. It is the biggest barrier to growth isn't just your speed. It is also how you treat the ideas of those around you. Stagnation is the ultimate price of an ego that refuses to be challenged. 5. Dismissing different perspectives. Psychology shows that high intelligence requires the capacity to update your mental software. When new data arrives, it should refine how you see the world. Cognitive psychology calls it belief perseverance when we cling to ideas despite new evidence. In this state, your ego acts as a firewall. It blocks any outside correction before you can even consider it. You might notice this when you feel a sudden flash of anger during an argument. That anger is often a sign that your identity feels threatened by the truth. Imagine your manager gives you constructive feedback on a project you worked hard on. Instead of listening, you immediately start making excuses for why the work was late. You might blame the tight timeline rather than looking at your own process. By shutting down, you miss the exact insight needed to grow. You essentially trade a better future for the comfort of being right. The real-world result is that you remain stuck with a very limited skill set. While everyone else adapts and moves past you, you stay in the same place. True intelligence isn't about being right. It is about being willing to be wrong. Ask yourself if you value your reputation more than you value the facts. The smartest people in the room are usually the ones listening the most. They know every conversation is an opportunity to fix a flaw in their thinking. If you can't handle being corrected, you will never be truly successful. Letting go of the need to be right is your first step toward real growth. Ultimately, the truth is simple. Real wisdom begins the moment you realize how little you actually know.